Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by Milo Tree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am recording this intro in my new city of Austin, Texas. I'm recording it in my Airbnb, so it sounds kind of echoey, but the interview will sound much better. Today, my guest is my friend Laura Fuentes. The interview went long, so I am splitting this one into two parts because I think it is that good. Let me tell you a little bit about Laura. She is the creator of Momables.com. She sells food plans to families to help them eat healthier, fresher foods. She is a cookbook writer. She is a YouTuber. She's been on TV shows like Good Morning America. I think you're going to really like this. So here is part one. So welcome to the show, Laura.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm a listener of your podcast. I love how helpful your emails that you send out are.
Oh, thank you.
You know I'm a fan. So what am I going to say for the ones that are listening? It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Okay, so we met, as I said, gosh, maybe 4 years ago. And I went to your session. You did a session on email. And I was blown away by what you were doing. And I went up to you and we started talking and we became friends. And then we've seen each other, I guess, at other conferences. And we're going to be at a conference together, Mom 2.0, very soon. So we'll get to hang out, IRL. So will you share your journey and how you started creating recipes, food plans, all of that?
Sure. So in the blogging age, I'm a dinosaur. It seems like 9 years ago now. I really started. I started with a personal blog. It wasn't really even what we see today on Momables.com or LauraFuentes.com. I really started blogging because after I came to the South for my MBA, I married a Southern man. I live right outside of New Orleans. And my whole family is in Spain. I was born and raised in Spain, and my mom was in California. And we used to have these 1.0 megapixel phones that took photos. And my mom wanted me to share all the things that we were doing. And I just found it so tedious to tell my mom the things that we were doing, and my aunt and my friends. And and I was a new-ish mom at the time. And a friend of mine said, "Why don't you start a blog?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And she's like, a blog is really just like a website, but instead of sending everybody an email with the things that you're doing or your mom, she's like, you can just put it out there. It's called a blog post. And you can put the pictures in the post and you basically share the story for everyone to read. So you don't have to customize an email to your mom and your aunt and your friends. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant, right? Because moms didn't have a lot of time. So actually, if you go on my blog years ago, I still have old posts where the pictures are tiny, tiny, tiny. This is before DSLR cameras and stuff. So I started really just by sharing what I was doing with my family. And my mom wanted to know why I fed my kids and the recipes that were working for me and the things that I was trying. So I started putting all of that on the internet and on my blog. And I found out that at the time, 8 years ago, there was no Pinterest. Facebook was really at its infancy. People weren't sharing and consuming content like they are now. So the posts that I shared, recipes that my kids enjoyed or school lunches or, the things that were working, it really resonated with people and people started coming to me as a resource. So I really started shifting towards the documenting my life into a place where I realized that I had this creativity with food, and I could help other people make fresh meals possible for their family.
So you started this just for your family, and then were other people coming to your blog?
Yeah.
Were you surprised?
That was like the early Googles,
Yeah.
I was one of the few people that shared healthy school lunches and school lunch ideas. And I'm super practical by nature. So of course, whenever I wrote something or created something, it was all about, okay, it's not just a recipe, but it was like, how do you pack it so it doesn't get soggy in a lunchbox? And how do you store it for later? How do you prep ahead? So I would answer all those questions, even how to boil an egg, So and I think that's sort of what defined really my type of content that I then started creating later on more strategically, but really being a helpful resource of how to make it happen when you're a really busy parent.
And how many kids do you have?
So I have 3 kids. Currently,
Okay.
they're 6, 10, and almost 12.
Okay. Got it. And so you were solving your own problem and then sharing about it.
Exactly. What happens when you do that is you actually really connect with people that are like-minded, right? I don't try to appeal to the masses. I try to appeal to people that are going through what I was going through and then still am in the world of parenting. And that's really how I really realized, I connected with people um, and then as we've evolved and I really have created a whole business out of sharing my ideas with Mama Bowls, cookbooks, video, like all that stuff. At the end of the day, um, I really love connecting with with this community that I've built over email.
Okay. So you start you start blogging about food and about being a mom and how to kind of solve the food issue as a mom with
Right.
kids.
Picky eaters, yeah,
I
all
have
the
a picky
things.
eater, so I so relate. I literally, I will still to this day go, I don't know what to make you because you
Right.
are a picky eater. So then, how did you start to think about this as a business? Like you ultimately make your most of your money via meal plans.
Right. So, uh, yes. So I started thinking about scaling what I knew. So if you don't know me very well, if you're listening, my background is really on strategic, like strategy, global economics. I think about scaling. Um, and and if you're a blogger and you're listening, you know that you start very passionately about something, and then it's almost like your life and your time gets consumed with creating and promoting your content. And then you're like, well, you know what, maybe it's your spouse, or you begin to think about my time is worth something, right? And I need to figure out how to make money out of this. And ad revenue was really in its infancy, and I didn't really have like millions of page views at the time that would really make a significant like impact in the revenue that I was bringing in. So I had to think about it. I was like, how can I create something that solves the problem that my community has, that I can be authentic, relatable, helpful, and make money.
Love it. Love it.
So that's where the meal plans were originally born. And as my original meal plans were just school lunches. I solved the what to pack for lunch.
I need you. Okay. And then, so you created, let's say, a prototype or a template or something, and you started putting it out on your blog and saying, hey guys, if you want to buy this.
Yep, I learned really quickly that if you don't ask, no one will buy. So, but I also had to learn how to create the ask, and um, I knew that social media, like people would share my content, so I started creating content around the meal planning and solving problems. I started creating content that would attract the kind of customer that I was seeking.
Ooh,
So this is a really early, say 2012, 2013, before I think I might have just gotten a Facebook page at the time, and definitely for Instagram and uh, Pinterest. So I knew that it was up to me to think about content in a way that people would share it. But then I thought, okay, it's great that people share it, but I can't put a Facebook post that says, hey, buy my plans.
mm,
People are like, that's spammy. So I knew that building a relationship with people was key. So about a year earlier, I started really studying online marketing, and I realized that bloggers or content creators, I wouldn't even say bloggers, like really content creators of all walks in niches, they really weren't focusing on an email strategy. They were just, this is like in the days where we had RSS feeds,
Yes.
Feedly, and they just sort of saw it as like, okay, well, people felt that their content was so good that people would just come to their blog, or maybe they'd subscribe to their feed. But I just thought, gosh, that's such a passive way of like, oh, if you like it, kind of grab the feed. But the reality is that the readers at the time, like they weren't so educated on how to do all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that there was one thing that that would never go away. That's email. I wake up in the morning at 5 a.m., 5:30. I check my email. I sort my inbox. I mean, I've been doing that for years. So I knew that my customer avatar or people that I wanted to attract really primarily gathered their information, that sorted their inboxes, subscribed to things, and I remember people telling me like, okay, so you're capturing their email and now what, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my opportunity to build a relationship with these people via email every single week via newsletter. So that's, and you met me 4 years ago when, probably a few years in of speaking about how to,
Yes.
create that newsletter that people would want to open and read. So I had already been doing that for about 4 years. I've been sending out a newsletter on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Central for the last 7 years now.
Yes. In fact, you opened my eyes to email marketing, email funnels. And I was blown away when you talked about it because it was so intentional. And it was so not spammy. It was, I'm going to provide value. And if you like it, buy my product. If you don't, just come along for the ride.
Totally. And that's what you want. You want to build a relationship that people see you as a resource, a trustworthy person. And sometimes they're not buying. I have customers who I've had on my list for like 5 or 6 years when they just had babies and they wanted to eat healthier themselves. And now their kids 5 years later are going to school and now they're buying my meal plans, right?
Interesting.
So it's really not about the instant sale. I would rather have a community of engaged people that are like-minded, that also finds the rest of my content that I produce, that it's free, helpful, and they're going to share that online with their network and therefore attract other parents who might be at the right time to purchase my meal plans or any of my other programs.
So in your newsletter, what do you write every week?
So in my newsletter, I write a personal story about my life, the person that I am, what happened that week, am I traveling, how did I pull it together to jump on a plane and still left my family with food. It's basically an email from me to a friend. And I literally write an email. I know it goes out to thousands of people, but I imagine that I'm just writing to one person.
Ooh. Yes. And do you always put a recipe in your newsletter?
My newsletters, so I do it a bit differently now than I used to, but in my newsletter my newsletter is built around the new content of the week. So whatever items were published Monday through Friday that week go on my newsletter.
Okay. And one thing we haven't touched on is you create amazing video. And
I love video production.
Yeah. And like you have your own studio that you built.
Yes.
And you, you have this amazing process where you like have a team come in and shoot a bunch of video, a bunch of recipes. And this is how you also work with brands, right? Which is you'll create video for brands. We'll come back to your newsletter and to your email strategy, but can you just quickly just talk about that? Like how many videos a week are you making?
So my newsletter includes not only blog posts, but it also includes video content that I release every week. So I've made a commitment to release a new video every single week. I've been doing that for 3 years, since 2014, 15. Yeah, 15, I think, 14. So since 2014, fall of 2014, I believe.
And are these always
Um,
recipes or could it
they're
just be?
mostly recipes. Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens is that I taught myself how to cook, and and I feel like cooking is something that anyone can do if you have a good process and recipe. And so what I want back in 2014, I realized that video would be it was the direction that people were consuming content, and this is really early on. And of course, look at where we are today. And so I had never been in front of a camera in my life, and I competed on Food Network that year, and that
As
just
what?
really
In what?
and won
No, no,
in
no.
a show.
What show?
Oh, it's called Rewrapped. So it was a show at the time, recreating recipes. You just showed up and you had to recreate a popular snack item from or something from the grocery store, right?
Okay.
And yeah, so and that taught me
Wait, wait. And what did you recreate?
I recreated this old snack called Weiss cheese. I can't even remember the name of this thing, but it's like these cheesy waffle things.
Okay.
Um, and what's interesting about that is that it's not even about winning or creativity, is that I honestly learned that I could create on my feet and I was really good at it.
Mm.
Um, and then that I could do video. I had never been in front of a video camera in my life. I was never the person. I'm not like my kids. I've grown up with like mom and holding the phone. So, um, I, it just taught me that I could do it, right? And I was very raw, not very good. Some days I want to take down my old videos on
Mm.
YouTube, but we all have to start somewhere, and it just helps you polish your craft, right? So I started doing video, and now I release one video a week, sometimes two. Sometimes they're sponsored, sometimes they're not sponsored. Most of the time they're not. And I do anything from cooking to the lifestyle of living a fresh lifestyle. What that looks like. How do sometimes a lot of it is meal prep. Um, it's really the things that it interests my audience. But I don't shoot every week. I do one video production day or two a month, and we produce 6 to 7 videos per day. It used to
Wow.
be up to 10, but it's crazy. So 6 to 7 is like a good number.
And how big is your team when they come in and work with you to create all these videos?
Yeah, it really depends on the project. It used to be one video person, sometimes two cameras. We now have technology really has helped cut that down. So now
Okay.
it's one video guy and myself. So it's a two-man team. And then I
Okay.
have a part-time assistant, or not an assistant, that will be here in video day just to, swap the food, pick up, get basically transition from one video to the next
Hmm.
while I'm producing the video with the video guy.
Got
So
it.
it's
How
really
long?
bare bones.
Okay. How long does it take to shoot one video?
On average, about an hour, start to
Wow.
finish. It really
Okay.
depends on the recipe, because sometimes we have like the banana bread, it's like 50 minutes in the oven. So what I do is I just put that banana bread in the oven and move on to the next video, and then I come back to it.
Wow.
But I pre-produce everything. So I the the key is in the production part of it, in your organization. I don't just go like, what, I think I shoot a video today. No,
Right.
no, like we've like really been planning. Video day is an investment in my brand because it costs money a lot. So I also I have pre-production days. So I outline the script. I know exactly, I read the recipes through and through. I know exactly what we're doing. I pre-measure some ingredients, so a lot of this is really streamlined.
Yes. And then who's editing the video?
The production company.
Okay.
Um, my production notes are basically my guys call it like editing on paper. So I edit on paper, and then they do all the editing on the computer.
And then this ultimately lives on YouTube. Is that
On
right?
YouTube.
Okay. And then you will repurpose this on your blog and then send this content out in your newsletter.
Yes. So I create video that the long form, so like the 3 to 5 minute videos or whatever, they go they get embedded on a blog post, and then the post gets promoted in my newsletter.
Got it. And then
As well as online on social media, and but my driver of traffic is my newsletter for sure.
Wow. And that's also then, and again, so you monetize working with brands
Mm-hmm.
and selling meal plans and cookbooks.
Yes, although my cookbooks are published by a traditional publisher, so if anybody knows, I mean, I literally after the first 10,000 copies, I probably make $1 per book.
Wow.
So yeah, like cookbook authors, unless they really don't make a lot, but I like my cookbooks because they're all my favorite things in one place, and it's nice to have.
And also they give you credibility.
Yes. So yes, thank you. I'm not a traditional chef or trained cook. I'm self-taught in every aspect. So I felt like a cookbook would provide me with credibility over an area like family food. And and now I'm releasing my 4th cookbook in August, and it's called the Taco Tuesday Cookbook.
Ooh.
Because I love tacos. And so again, it's all my favorite things in one place.
So you are, like, what you've done so well is created a brand around a lifestyle. But you're also so, I would say, relatable that you recognize, like, this isn't a perfect, like, you can aspire to this perfect lifestyle, but like, you're not living it. You're trying to live it.
It's so not messy. I mean, it's so messy. And that's something that you have to sort of accept. Like if you go on my Instagram feed, it's, I mean, like this is something I discuss a lot, but like it's not planned. It's not all the same filter. I don't do the things that, maybe that's why I don't grow as fast. I don't know. But like, I don't do those things. I do me. And I do me really well because no one else can do me,
Right.
So, and I think that's something that when people start out, yes, you have to mimic what other people are doing, but you have to do you in all things in your life, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to stick with it long enough to A, see success, and B, whatever that may mean to you, and B, actually monetize. You got to be you.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think that you are really good at, I mean, you just said it, but it's true. I feel like I know you based on your newsletters. I mean, I know you in real life, but it's not that you're not that different.
Yeah, I want people to read my newsletter and go, oh, thank God she had a shitty week last week, or or she didn't keep it together, and she went to Chick-fil-A this week, or I try to kind of talk about how does she do it in my newsletters, because people wonder, like, how do you run a full-time business? How did you get there? I'm going to be talking more about that, but like, how do you cook? I cook every night of the week, unless we're at my parents eating dinner or at my in-laws. We have family meal every night, and that's a priority for me. So I also work really hard to relate to people who have struggles that I may not be struggling, but I can acknowledge that they're struggling in that area, right? So, and I'm 100% honest. Like, you know what, Jillian? You know what really helps is to pay attention to your life and how you can make your life the best life for you, as opposed to live your life through what other people are doing online and try to mimic their life. Because I honestly, I don't have time to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
I don't really care what big blogger is doing and what this other blogger is doing. A lot of times people come to me and they're like, oh, you see, like, oh, they're copying what you're doing. I'm like, what? Good for them. They're doing they're doing their thing. Like, it's what I know, what I have is really special to me and to my community. And so I do me,
I love that. That's the end of part 1. Isn't Laura great? In part 2, we go into how she sells her meal plans using her email list. It's really good. Please come back. And if you're trying to grow your social media followers and your email list, definitely check out MiloTree, milotree.com. It's the app we built. It's grown our social media followers on Catch My Party like crazy. Definitely try it out. You get 30 days free. You install it on your site. We have a WordPress plugin. We are GDPR compliant. We are Google friendly. We are non-invasive but noticeable. It will really work. So try it out. If you have any questions, just reach out to me, and we'll be back next week with part 2.